Welcome back to Treknopod, a short form podcast hosted by two Trek loving dads. I'm Captain Vector. With me each week, side by side, in our co-captain's chair on the bridge of the USS Treknopod is Captain Schaff. Captain Schaff, how you doing today?
I've been better. This past week has been a challenge. I've been under the weather, so if you hear me sounding a little bit scratchy, and if I cough, I apologize in advance for that. I've been sick. My daughter has had a stomach bug. It's just been a thing around the house. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Captain Vactor?
I'm doing well health-wise, but mentally, it's been a long week this week, Schaff. There's been a lot of long days, but we're here and we're having a fun night tonight. As we record this episode, it is Thursday, March 23rd, 3/23/23. And we're going to have some fun. Every week, we're going to be dropping a new episode focusing our thoughts on the current Trek TV show of the past week. This week, we're doing Star Trek Picard Season 3. Now, let's get into our weekly mission with our episode discussion. This is Season 3, Episode 6, The Bounty. First airing today as we record this, like I said, 3/23/23. Directed by Dan Liu and written by Christopher Monfett. Now, if you are not of the spoiler variety, you're going to want to tune out right now. We're going to have a red alert. Spoilers ahead. So turn back now if you have not seen Picard Season 3, Episode 6, but come back as soon as you do. A synopsis for this episode: now on the run, Picard and the skeleton crew of the USS Titan must break into Starfleet's most top secret facility to expose a plot that could destroy the Federation. Picard must turn to the only soul in the galaxy who can help: an old friend. Oh, yeah, Captain Schaff. Now, I know you aren't feeling 100%, but what did you think about The Bounty?
Ooh, this episode delivered. Every episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3 has delivered. And, I mean, I was ready for Episode 5, Episode 6 to be a dip, right? Like, that's kind of the trend of this show. But that's not the case. The show has been awesome from start to present day, where we're at right now. It doesn't show any signs of slowing, and I feel like we're just going to get banger after banger after banger with these episodes, and The Bounty is no different. I loved it. What about you?
I'm the same way. This might be my favorite episode of this entire series.
Ooh.
This was so good. I was watching it and loving every second of this episode. So I can't wait to talk about it with Captain Shaw.
Yes.
All right. So we've been continuing our slow and steady grind towards the Daystrom Institute, the Daystrom Station. We've been hearing Daystrom all throughout. We actually got a chance to go into the Daystrom Station on this episode. And they had a nice little thing on the Ready Room all about the Daystrom Easter eggs. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that.
I did watch that. It was really cool. And also just the set design of Daystrom. They were using a lot of the designs that they had done on TNG with like the black, like sort of lattice walls with all the holes in them and stuff. Like that was really cool that they brought that back.
And as I was watching that Ready Room, and also, like I said, this episode is just my favorite, I think, of the entire series. It made me think, I think I'm going to want to check out 12 Monkeys, because Terry Matalas has done a fantastic job running this season of Picard. And I hadn't actually heard his name before. Was not familiar with his work before, but he used a lot of the same actors on 12 Monkeys in this season of Picard. So I'm convinced that he is a good showrunner, Schaff. I think I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. When 12 Monkeys first came on TV, a few years back, I was intrigued by it and I really wanted to watch it, but it was just one of those shows that maybe there was something else happening at the same time and it just didn't get priority. But like you, I would definitely go back and watch this because I'm digging whatever Mtalis Prime is putting out.
Yeah,
for sure. Man, there's so much to talk about with this episode. A few notes, like just sort of like ancillary stuff. Vadic rules. Amanda Plummer is an amazing actress. She commands this character so well. I am so impressed by her. Her delivery of just names and phrases and what she like chooses to put emphasis on. I love that stuff. Oh my gosh. She's giving me life.
and the last couple seasons, I haven't really felt the presence of a antagonist. Trying to think, because Q is kind of a little bit in the last season.
We had Borg Queen. She was definitely an antagonist.
Yeah, I feel like Vanek feels like a true baddie to me. Like this is the one that I'm afraid of. Those other ones is like, yeah, a little bit, but this one.
Which is crazy because we still don't really know much about who she's reporting to.
Right.
And I mean, we're not even 100% sure if this person she's reporting to is a changeling because the way the episode ended, it almost made it seem like the voice was referring to her kind, referring to changelings as if it's not, that voice is not part of that. So that to me was a really confusing moment of, well, what the heck is this thing at this point? So that's wild.
Yeah. I want to see what is going down, Shoff. And this episode in particular made me think about Captain Shoff. When I saw all the different ships in this episode, the museum and all of the Star Trek lore, I said, and that's a double entendre, Shoff.
Sure
lore
is.
We'll get to in a little bit, but just the history of Trek, I felt the weight of it, and I felt like this is the essence of Captain Shoff. Like I said, especially when I saw all those ships, even the very first shot of the episode is three ships coming together. So I felt it, Shoff. I felt your presence.
Well, it's like so fitting that this episode happened this week because just like a couple days prior, they had that replicas website that was selling the Eagle Moss ships, and I got on there and I surprised you with I purchased the Defiant for you to add to your collection.
Thank you.
Got myself a Defiant. I got myself an Enterprise E. So those are in the mail right now. I don't know how long it'll take because they're coming from, I want to say the UK. So, but it was just appropriate that the Fleet Museum was on full display and we got to see so many cool ships. Let me see. I wrote them down. We had the Defiant, of course. We had Kirk's Enterprise A. We had Voyager. We had the HMS Bounty, the bird of prey from Star Trek 4. And then we also had the USS New Jersey. And that one was like, when I came across, I was like, what? What is that? I did a little bit of digging. So it's actually not, it's not previously seen or mentioned in any Star Trek show or film. It's actually a nod to Terry Matalas, who was born in New Jersey in 1975. It was because the insignia, or not the insignia, the I can't think of the registry. The ship registry is NCC 1975. So it's really just a nod to him that it's in there. But I thought that was kind of cool. But so many cool ships. And that was just the Fleet Museum. The Daystrom station had a whole bunch of other Easter eggs too. What were some of your favorites that you saw there?
Well, even when we were going through those ships, that was the moment that I texted you about when I told you that I had goosebumps. It was going through the ships and the theme songs playing in the background. And I was like, actually, Voyager was the one that really got me.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of building and building. And then when it got to Voyager and when Seven was talking, I was like, oh, man, like it just felt, I felt that 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 joy, that sense of joy for Voyager of that show. So music, it has such an emotional tie to us as humans. It's always fun to when you have that emotional reaction to something. So yeah, that was fantastic having those different the music cues. And then I think, to me, the in plain sight Easter egg was Geordi. And I've been talking about, it's funny, I was watching our Brian Q. Miller, Brian Q. Miller episode, and talking about, I want to see Geordi. And then finally we're getting it in this episode 6 of the season. And Geordi did not disappoint, bringing his 2 daughters, and that being LeVar Burton's real life daughter, which I did not know until I saw the Ready Room. So that was my favorite Easter egg moment, was seeing Geordi, like I said, because it's been building this whole season. I've been like, where is he?
What I didn't expect was for him to have such a sort of like an anti-helping position on this whole thing. But then when you think about it, and you think about the situation and how much his own daughter is in the thick of it, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense why he would feel this way. And as a father of 2 daughters myself, I can relate to LaForge in a new way. LaForge has always been one of my favorite TNG characters, but now even more so, I can be like, oh, he's a protective dad. He's looking out for his family. Like, this is a great side of him. And then also just knowing that it's not just him playing father to a couple of actresses who are playing his daughter. He's literally has a familial association. His own daughter is there, and he gets to share that special moment. And that was some really good interactions on the Ready Room when Will Wheaton was interviewing all 3 of them. It was so cool. One thing that stood out to me on that interview was that apparently while this show was being filmed, this season, Thanksgiving happened, and LeVar Burton invited his non-blood biological daughter to come to Thanksgiving and be part of the family. And then they, like, for Father's Day, they even like gifted him like a photo of all of them together. Like, so cool that they became a family.
This whole season of the Ready Room has been really eye-opening to me of how close these actors are. And Michelle Hurd broke down. We didn't talk about it on, I think it was last week's episode, because I hadn't seen it at the time of recording, but she broke down knowing that she had already filmed her last scene of the season, and we don't know if we're ever going to get any more Ruffy after this. So her saying, oh, I went in to do my last ADR to record some vocal stuff, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to play this character again. But Michael Dorn was like, you're part of the family now forever. Like, you've been introduced in this season or in this show, and now you're going to be part of the Star Trek family forever. And that's kind of crazy, because Star Trek is very similar to Star Wars in that when you have an actor play a role, it's not just, oh, okay, they played it in 1985 and then we never saw them again. Like, most of the time they can still go to conventions. They can still, like, the fans have a love for all of these characters, and they continue to provide that. And then we're seeing it now. I don't even know what to call it, but I was watching the latest Scream movie the other night, Scream 6, and they called it a Lega sequel. So it's not a sequel, it's not a reboot, but it's a Lega sequel where you're having the original cast and an updated cast. And that's what I feel like a lot of these things are going through with a lot of these franchises, Star Trek, Star Wars. You're having these new sequels, but you still have the original characters coming back. And the people who grew up with those characters are now older, and they're introducing the next generation, their family, to the properties and the franchises. So I feel a love for all of these characters in this season, and also just my nostalgia for TNG. So I think that's why this season in particular is hitting me. And it's just, I think, a really well done storyline so far of what's going on. So
it's kind of amazing how well they're able to weave nostalgia with like a modern plot, something that's happening in the modern day, but there's still so many nods that aren't just fan service. Like this makes sense. Like all of it makes sense, but it also does act as fan service, and we just eat it up. We're so happy to get all these cool things. Like Daystrom had the Genesis device from the Wrath of Khan. It had the skeleton, or basically the remains of James T. Kirk. It had an attack tribble. When I seen that whole thing, it reminded me of the Collector's Vault from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Because you would freeze frame it, right? You're like, oh, I gotta see. Do I recognize that? And I thought about that from the video game too, because I know you and I both played the Square Enix Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
And there's a moment where you're on the basically on the celestial head nowhere, and you can look through all the cool Easter eggs of all the stuff in the Marvel universe that's like on display in his vault and in like that museum. And it's such a cool moment to see all these cool stuff. And that's what it felt like for me. It was like just a goodie bag full of your favorite things. So.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I was thinking about you on this episode in particular, because I said, man, Shoff, how many years has Shoff been watching Star Trek, and then all these things coming back? And I think that's been a very big success of this season, is referencing a lot of stuff from the past and then bringing it into a modern sensibility. But also, I was thinking about Shoff this episode because of all of the theories that Shoff has had on multiple episodes of this podcast. And I think this episode, Shoff, a lot of those theories paid off.
Yeah, I got some resistance. I'm not going to lie. I got some resistance on TikTok from some people because we posted some clips of some of my theories, some shorts from the past couple of weeks' episodes. And one of the things I had said was that Moriarty was going to be the AI of Daystrom. I was right about that. I said that Lore was not going to be like an antagonist. Like everyone thought it was just going to be Lore. And I said, if Lore is involved, he's not going to be an antagonist. He's going to ultimately be an ally. And look at this. I mean, we haven't seen the end of the season. We don't know where things are going to go for this character, but we are introduced to a new version of Data, who is actually kind of an amalgamation of all the versions that came before. We have before, there we go. There's another double entendre. We have B4 from Nemesis. We have Lore. We have Data. We have, excuse me. We have Lal from season 1 of, no, I'm sorry. Lal is from TNG. But we also have, I mean, all versions basically that Sung had put together have
even
found
him
themselves, yeah, exactly, have found themselves into a synthetic body, the same type synthetic body that Picard is currently running around in. So he is as close as he's ever been to being human, which was ultimately his goal. He was sort of the the Pinocchio, I guess, right? So
that's what I was going to say.
So this is just so exciting to see this evolution of the character, and to be conflicted, right? So he's got all of those personalities sort of vying for dominance within himself because they were not fully integrated. So that's going to present some really cool stuff going forward for the remaining 4 episodes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Data. Do you think him being in this season takes away from the impact of his death? And that's even, like they mentioned, Rafi, didn't he die twice?
Yes, he did die twice. He died
you
in
think
Nemesis, and then he died again in season 1 of Picard.
do you think that having him in this season lessens those deaths, or do you think it's just, just part of the whole overall storyline of Data?
I don't think it lessens it because they've just found another way to bring him back. And honestly, when we were thinking about how Brent Spiner was going to be involved, we were all kind of like, how could you not have a TNG reunion without him?
Mm-hmm.
I know his character is technically gone, but like, how could you not have him be a part of it? That would be a very glaring omission. And I saw an article today, actually, it was on Collider, and it was an interview with Terry Matalas, and he was saying, one of the first questions I had to ask myself was, how the hell are you going to do a Star Trek Next Generation reunion without Picard being part of it? He said, this character has died twice. You can't just bring him back magically. Something else has to happen. And then he says, there have been stories that haven't really been told with Data, which is he was backed up into B4. So like there was that dangling thread at the end of Nemesis that sort of indicated that as B4, he could live on again with the memory engrams and all of that. And he said that Lore was still sort of like a dangling Chad. Excuse me. But he also said, what if it was Jekyll and Hyde? What if both Lore and Data were in there with all these other things? Wouldn't that give Brent Spiner something really interesting to play? And couldn't that promise a really interesting final Data Lore story? I took that to Brent thinking he was going to reject the whole thing. And he was like, oh, that's actually really cool. Brent was unbelievably collaborative with it, and Brent had ideas that only elevated it in ways I couldn't have imagined. In fact, some of the best moments of this story were Brent's idea. So knowing that he has so much involved in the creation of this new version of the character, and most likely the final farewell of this character, I'm so glad. I think it's perfect. What about you?
I really like Data was my favorite character on TNG when I was growing up. I think now everybody has a special place for me, but Data was the first character that I really fell in love with, and it was just the nature of an android, artificial intelligence like that. I've always been attracted to like futuristic technologies and things like that. So AI was always an interest of me growing up. But I kind of wish there was just one death for him. Give him like a really good sacrifice, swan song, like in Nemesis, and then just don't play with him anymore. But like you said, it would be super difficult, and you'd really, I think, feel his absence if we didn't have him represented in a huge way, instead of just, oh yeah, we mentioned, yeah, he sacrificed himself. Good on you, Data, but you never saw him in this season. That would also be a disappointment for me. So I feel kind of both ways about it. I like having just one death and one huge moment, but I'm selfish. I want him in this season. I want everybody, and we get to see everybody finally. I think at the halfway point of the season where we actually got every member. I'm trying to think. We basically got the whole main cast. And Troy, I don't know, did she feel off to you in her demeanor, the way that she spoke to Riker? Like, I felt like
she only said his name, right? She was like, oh, Will,
yeah,
or something like that. It was,
I got this vibe when she said that. I was like, she feels like she's disappointed. And I was like, what? And so it is a definite cliffhanger of, I want to see like, what is she, is there more to that? Or am I reading too much into it? So it definitely left me like, what? I need to see the next episode.
Oh, I don't really love that she's a damsel in distress in this regard. I mean, she is and she isn't. She's not the only prisoner now because Riker's there too. But talk about a good bargaining chip. I don't know. My thought was also, where's their kid? in all of this. They still have a daughter. She's not like old enough on her own, right? So like she's just hanging out at the house, wondering where mom and dad went.
It is kind of like almost like they think we forgot that they appeared in the other season, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the first time you're seeing them, guys. Hey, there's no kids. No, it's just them. But yeah, it is kind of a strange thing. But we'll hopefully maybe they'll mention. Maybe the kid will show up, and then we've got all the kids hanging out, because we had a nice little moment with Picard Jr. and Geordi's daughters.
Yes,
talk to each other, and he was kind of flirting. And
yeah, he was.
Then later, Geordi's like, "Don't talk to my daughter," or whatever it was. Like that was a great moment. And you touched on it earlier. You said how Geordi is treating his daughter differently than holding her to a different standard than he held himself, where when he was on the TNG days, he was just reckless, like, hey, we're going to save the galaxy, whatever. But now that it's his daughter, he's like, oh no, I got to be more reserved. And I thought that was interesting. Like you said, as a father, it is, oh yeah, you would look at it differently than your own life. So I thought that was very interesting and very true to life.
Yes, absolutely. But it is really cool. I mean, in the Ready Room, in one of his interviews, he was talking about how it's literally the next generation. Like you're getting to see the generation that followed this next generation. So I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Going back to what they were doing, those Jack Crusher and Geordi's daughters, they were stealing the cloaking device.
Oh yeah.
From the bounty.
I forgot. I was gonna when we were talking about the ships, I was gonna mention that. Yeah.
So 20 minutes into this is another theory that I got right. So 20 minutes into the show, they're talking about how they need to find a way to be invisible. That's the only way they're going to be able to hang out by Daystrom, because all those ships are flying around and sort of the Titans acting as a beacon, blah, 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 all that technical jargon. But the point was that they needed to be invisible. And I'm like, sounds like they need a cloaking device. And then I immediately thought about, they need a cloaking device. They need a Klingon ship or a Romulan ship. And then I remembered that I was like, oh, are they going down this road? I was like, are they going to show the bird of prey from Star Trek 4? And I was like, no, they're not going to do that. I wrote it down. I was like, are we getting the Klingon bird of prey? And then I thought about it some more. My notes say, just dawned on me, the Bounty, which is the title of the episode, could refer to the HMS Bounty, the name of the bird of prey from Star Trek 4. And I was like, oh my God, they're doing this. And then, of course, as they pull up on the Fleet Museum, you can see a bird of prey like hanging out on one of those like platforms. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And then they make a whole thing about it. And I was like, this is hitting on all cylinders. I am so happy right now.
And see, I had never seen Star Trek 4 until we did our co-captain's commentaries. So when I was like, yes.
So great.
Another thing that was great was the Shaw LaForge interaction in this episode.
Yeah.
And I just love, so we've seen Shaw be kind of a jerk to everybody for the most part, looking down on every single person, including admirals. But when he is in front of LaForge, he's like, sir, I have so much respect for you, and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, this is a completely different Shaw than we've seen previously. And that character has grown on me so much from the first time we saw him until now, and seeing the actor in the Ready Room, just getting to know him a little bit behind the scenes. I like Shaw a lot more now than I did at the beginning.
Yeah. I really feel more and more that this season is also acting as a backdoor pilot to a Titan series.
Ooh.
Additionally, with what we know about Worf and what we know about Raffi and what we know about this long gestation period for the Section 31 series, that was supposed to involve Michelle Yeoh.
Oh man.
I feel like, and Terry Matalas has said this, I think it was either him or Alex Kurtzman, but they said that some of these shows that they haven't announced yet, they simply can't because they require other shows to be complete.
Oh.
So to me, like that is sort of like reading between the lines on that. That's, well, Discovery has to end, which it's going to. Picard has to end, which it's about to. And that paves the way then for these other shows where these characters are being introduced. And maybe that's why Section 31 has taken so long to get off the ground, is because they needed to get Picard out because Worf and Raffi were going to be involved with that. So, I mean, I feel like we've got more. I just feel like we've got more stories to tell with these characters. So I'm really, really thrilled.
Yeah.
And excited to see what's coming. We know that we're getting Strange New World season 3 was greenlit the other day, so that's exciting. Nice. We're going to get season 3. Season 2, we were supposed to announce the release date just the other day, but it didn't happen. So hopefully we'll know soon, but I would imagine it'll be sometime this year. Hopefully sooner than later. I need my Captain Pike.
Ooh,
I've been trying to go the Pike's Peak.
Yeah,
it's coming in pretty nice.
Well, I'm getting my fill of Pike on Discovery as I'm going through on our little TikTok series that we're doing, Rediscovery, where I'm watching all of the episodes of Discovery for the first time. And Shaf, you've even started back on your own Rediscovery journey.
It's true.
But you haven't spoken about that on the podcast yet.
No, because I just started this week. But I have blazed through almost all of season 1 just in a week. I am on episode 12 or 13. No, 13. I'm on 13 of 15 episodes. So I'm almost done with season 1. I'm getting really close to you. I'm on your heels.
Yeah.
And we'll be watching them in sync. And you know what? I have to say it is far more enjoyable watching Discovery this way, because when I was watching it on live television, in the sense of having to wait during the season breaks, because there were mid-season breaks, having to wait between seasons versus just barreling through like this. So nice.
Yeah, it is a really nice thing to be able to binge it. I missed the water cooler talks for Discovery, so that was something that I missed out on. But I'm having a lot of fun doing these rediscoveries on TikTok. If anyone is not following us on TikTok, it's just at Treknopod. Shaf is doing some fantastic work doing memes and current Star Trek stuff, like taking current memes and putting them into Star Trek form.
Yeah.
So those have been a lot of fun for me to watch, Shaf. And then I've been doing the rediscovery. Hopefully, I was thinking about doing some more Star Trek comic book content, Shaf, and putting it on our TikTok. So, Shaf displaying a very nice Funko Pop. And you can see that if you're watching us on YouTube right now.
That's right. Yep. This is the 40th anniversary Funko Pop. This is a Star Trek shop exclusive.
Yeah.
Exclusives. And it's extremely awesome. And this will also be in an upcoming meme on TikTok, as well as all other stuff too. So I've been working on something, but it didn't really come together this afternoon. I need to work a little bit more on it, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Man, I cannot wait, Shaf. So yeah, I think we just had a very fantastic episode. Probably my favorite of the series for how much was jam-packed into this episode of Easter eggs in the background, Easter eggs in the foreground, and just a really nice story altogether. I think it had something for everyone in this episode.
I just remembered an Easter egg that I didn't mention before. And this was one I only learned on the Ready Room. On Geordi LaForge's desk.
Oh, yeah.
Is a statue, a mini statue of Zephram Cochrane. You're looking out. I love it. I loved it. So cool.
And hearing LeVar Burton have that experience behind the scenes of, oh man, you guys really like the level of detail is just fantastic. So that was a lot of fun to see that. So you guys, if you're not watching the Ready Room, there's so much great stuff of behind the scenes stuff that they're doing. And I really enjoyed the interviews with all the crew, especially in the cast, on all of these little featurettes that they're doing. So some fantastic stuff over there. Some fantastic stuff can be found on our social media platforms. Everyone out there, if you're not following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you can do that just at Treknopod. Across the board, that's where we can be found. Like I said, Shoff is putting out some fantastic content on YouTube as well. You should be watching now the full episodes. We're going to start posting those onto YouTube, cutting them up into shorts and putting them on Instagram Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. So we're going to have long content. We're going to have short content. We're going to have everything.
Wide content. We're going to have thin content.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
all the content.
We'll just keep getting thinner.
Yeah. So definitely check us out on all of those places. We thank you very much for listening to us, watching us. If you're on, like I said, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Don't forget, if you're feeling saucy, if you're feeling spicy, as Shoff is every night, when he goes to the bathroom after a burrito, you can always rate us, review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We have places where you can give us 5 stars and write a review, which helps us very much, because what it does is basically tells these platforms, hey, the fans are digging these guys. We should show more fans. Yep. We should spread the word. So that's always good when they do that. But also you yourself, the listener, you can spread the word just by letting your friends and family know that Shoff and Vactor are here talking Trek all the time. Man, I cannot wait to see how this season progresses, Shoff. I'm having a great time talking to you about Star Trek Picard.
Yes.
Excellent.
Loving it.
Next week, we're going to continue our ongoing recap and review of Star Trek Picard Season 3. But for this episode, my friends, I believe our mission of the week is complete. Now boldly go and have a great week.
Live long and prosper.